Do you ever get tilted? Do you ever get really annoyed at your opponent? Are you ever in a fighting game and you just want to actually Volcanic Viper your opponent in the face right now because they keep spamming the same move? Well, don't worry. We've all been there. It's something that we all have to learn to deal with in our own separate ways. But since I've been playing these games for a very long time at this point, I thought I could impart onto you some of my knowledge on how I deal with tilt. So, let's talk about how to improve your mental in fighting games. Meat! How the fuck did you get in my house? Raw meat! Why are you screaming at me so much? That's right, the new GamerSupps flavor Raw Meat has just hit the virtual shelves. You can get this delicious flavor alongside a bunch of other caffeinated and non-caffeinated energy drink supplements, as well as one of their various waifu cups. Just make sure when you do, you use code HE'sGekking for 10% off any order on the site. So what are you waiting for? Go to GamerSupps.gg to get your Raw Meat today! Are you done screaming at me? Yeah, that's all I wanted to say. Okay, thank you. Alright, let's talk about 5 ways to deal with getting tilted. The first thing that you need to do is accept that losses happen. Well, not just accept that losses happen, you probably know that they happen, but you need to change your outlook about losses. In literally any competitive player versus player game ever, 50% of the player base is always going to lose. That's just how it is. At some point, you have to realize that losses are inevitable. At some point, you are gonna take an L, and it's gonna suck. But there's a couple of things that you can do about it. The biggest thing I did to help me was change the way that I talked about my losses. A lot of the time when you lose, it's very easy to just say that your opponent is scrubby and bullshit, and they did a bunch of stuff that's not fair, and it sucks, and they're terrible, and I hate them. I'm gonna take matters into my own hand. But that's not the best way to go about it. You need to learn to resist the urge to immediately chat shit against your opponent. It's not easy, like really not easy, but you can do a couple things to make it a little bit easier. Instead of saying things like they're shit or they're terrible, try to find ways to rephrase it in a more positive mindset. If your opponent hits you with a DP you didn't expect, instead of going, of course they would DP there, of course they would DP there, why wouldn't they DP there? They're so scrubby. To just, oh shit, nice DP. This not only puts a more positive spin on what happened, giving the opponent a compliment rather than insulting them, but it's easy to get past something like this. If you get negative about something, it's very easy to get stuck on it, but if you're just praising your opponent, you generally want to skip past it as fast as you can. If you have no idea what to say or what to praise, just go nice. Unironically, this is something that I've started doing in a lot of matches. Some people in my logos have noticed that I start smiling and nodding my head when I lose, because in my head I'm just going nice, 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 nice. If you're having a hard time with this, try and view it from the opponent's perspective. Try and think about what they're thinking about right now. Obviously, you might be able to just go, they're not thinking at all, but if they land something cool and get out of a situation, they probably feel good about it. So you know, at least they're having a good time. It's a very cheesy way to deal with tilting, but unironically, changing it to a more positive outlook can actually help you pretty quickly. If you keep consistently losing though, you probably want a more concrete way to get more wins. And this is where you need to start reviewing your VODs. Likelihood is, if you're losing, then you're definitely doing something wrong, especially if it's against the same character over and over and over and over again. This could be something that's extremely simple about your matchup, or it could be something that's actually quite complex. Unfortunately though, you're not going to learn unless you actually do a little bit of research and figure out what it is that you're losing to. This is where watching your matches comes into play. VOD reviews, or just watching your previous matches, is a big part of being a fighting game competitor. At some point, you're gonna have to go back and you're gonna have to learn what your opponent was doing in order to beat them next time. So I really recommend getting into the habit of going back to really bad matches and looking at what your opponent was doing. If you go back and you see what the problem is, you can figure out how to deal with it faster. And then you can take that problem that you're having into the lab, the safe space where you're able to mess around and figure out the best way to deal with that problem in a quick and easy amount of time. If you lab out a situation and you figure out a good response with, the next time you see it, you should be able to deal with it more, meaning that you're less likely to tilt. Don't just assume you know everything about a matchup. Trust me, you probably don't. Even the most simplest of matchups can have a lot of stuff that you just didn't even think about. Getting more knowledge about your game is going to help you out a lot, and you'll get less frustrated in matches because you'll have a better understanding of what's going on. But maybe you review your VODs and you find the problem, but you're still extremely annoyed while you're in matches. Maybe then your actual goal and perspective is the problem. My third tip is that I recommend finding something to focus on that isn't the actual result of the match. It is very easy in the middle of a match to get caught up on if you win or if you lose. If you beat someone, you're the best player around. You're the best guy in the venue. Best gamer in the land. And if you lose, you suck. You're terrible. You're the worst player in the world. You are dog. But let's be real, that's not always the case. Anytime you win or lose a match, you have 100% made some mistakes during that match. Even the matches where you absolutely pave over your opponent, just utterly demolish them with no hope of them coming back to win, could have you making mistakes in the match. So figuring out exactly what it is that you're doing wrong in any given match will help you out. This doesn't mean you should never feel good about winning because you didn't play 100% optimally. Of course you should feel good about winning. You still beat someone. But it also means that when you lose, you have something else to look at. Let's say that you lost the match, but normally when you try to whiff punish a move, you absolutely fuck it up. And this time in particular, you actually managed to get the correct whiff punish. That is something that you should feel proud of. You didn't beat the other person, but you as yourself improved. You need to set mini goals like this every time you go into a match. Maybe you want to try an anti-air more. Maybe you want to try and beat a specific gimmick against that character. Maybe you just want your movement to be better. Maybe you just want to live more in that specific match. Whatever it is, you can feel proud of yourself after coming out from the loss. And if you didn't do these things, well, there's always next time. You gotta play to improve, not to beat the opponent. Obviously, this depends on the setting. Tournaments, you generally do want to play to win, but as long as you're playing to improve in most matches, you'll generally be fine. Trust me when I say that this will work. It has absolutely worked for me several times. If after all of this, though, you still find yourself getting tilted, I recommend just taking a step back. Listen, tilt gets to everyone, even the most absolute stoic of players. Sometimes you need to just exit out from the situation and take a little bit of a breather. This could be literally removing yourself from the setup, going and playing another game, taking a walk, or just doing whatever to not think about the game right now. Once you find yourself calming down, I recommend going back and doing the other 3 options. When you think about a match, think about a positive thing that your opponent did and talk about how they actually played well. Review the VOD to see what you did wrong. Try to figure out what the problems were in your game plan. And make sure to point out the good things you did in that VOD. Sometimes you don't even notice a sick play that you did in the middle of the match until you go back and you go, holy shit, I did that? Well, what if you try all 4 of these things and you're still getting tilted? You're still getting annoyed. What if you don't want to get better mentally? What if you want to go ape shit? Well, there's always step 5. Get silly with it. You ever thought about how your opponents sometimes just do the stupidest options? Like the dumbest shit? The worst fucking thing ever, and they're just not thinking and it works? Have you tried it? Just do the dumb shit. Do the dumbest, most broken move on your character. Do silly shit that makes no sense. Like, literally, who fucking cares at this point? You want a DP on literally every single wake-up? Go for it. If you're already on a losing streak, what's it fucking matter? If this loss is already solidified in your brain, you might as well try and have fun with it. Just throw caution to the wind and do the dumbest thing ever. Mash in a situation where you shouldn't mash. Try to go for an overhead 12 times in a row. Just keep throwing the opponent. Who cares? By throwing caution to the wind and just trying to do dumb shit, you might actually just get rid of the tilt. This isn't even a bit. Sometimes just doing the dumbest option that you can think of as like a rage bait can actually get rid of your tilt level. And sometimes it might even win you games. It's not a good way to win games, but if that's all you care about, then it'll get you some. And I'm not kidding when I say that sometimes going all out and doing the dumbest offensive option you've ever seen can get you wins against really good players. Fighting games at the end of the day are supposed to be fun activities. And if you're trying to take these games really seriously and you're having a lot of trouble with them, sometimes you just need to take a step back and do the silly shit. Do the dumb things that make you love your character. Do that one really obnoxious move that everyone hates because it's just funny. Just go and have a good time. Try not to think about the wins or the losses. Focus on what you've done correct. Watch your VODs back to see how good of a player you actually are, and maybe give your opponent a compliment once in a while. Do all of this, and you'll have a much better outlook on these games before you know it. Trust me. Thank you for watching. I'm streaming Guilty Gear Strive right now in the park. It's a very good time. You should come over and watch. If you don't, go sub to my Patreon. It's like literally £1 a month. There's nothing on it, but it supports me, and that's what matters the most. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next week. As always, a very special thanks to 64 MHz, Almost Nap Time, Ben from Canada, Savantis Leon, Daniel Wiedericht, Edison Lottery, Fexo, Games.png, I Am Naoto, It's Riley, Knife and Spoon, Pretty Cat, MP04, Mr. Clen, Ray W, Sergeant Cubby, Super, Falcon, Tom Tanks, Velvet Puppy, Volta, and Zandatsu, being Tier 2 patron supporters.